Great. So like I said, I'm Allison, the GLEAM Grant Coordinator, and our purpose for today is to learn more about GLEAM Cohort 2 and what your district should consider when applying for the different GLEAM grant programs. We will have time at the end of our informational session today for question and answer, but please pop the questions into the chat as they arise for you, and we will make sure that we answer all of them before ending today, as well as updating a public Q&A document with all of the questions that you asked today. So our objectives for today are to better understand the GLEAM Cohort 2 vision, goals, and programming, clarify expectations of a high-quality GLEAM grant proposal, and share upcoming technical assistance resources and opportunities, and answer any questions that you have about the program. This is our agenda for today. We will start with explaining the GLEAM program in general before diving into the two different GLEAM programs you can apply for: the GLEAM Pre-K through 12 program or the GLEAM Preschool Only program, before transitioning into what the application looks like, what districts should consider when applying to GLEAM, and what technical support and resources are available to you. We will then wrap up with a Q&A. So let's start with learning more about the GLEAM program. First, if your district or charter has at least one school in which the percentage of students identified as low income is 50% or greater, or if you have at least one high school in which the percentage of students identified as low income is 40% or greater, you are eligible to apply for GLEAM. On the GLEAM RFPs, you will see an eligibility list for you to check and ensure your district is eligible to apply. And if you are at all unsure, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. GLEAM is an acronym for Growing Literacy Equity Across Massachusetts and is the Massachusetts program name for the federal Comprehensive Literacy State Development Grant. The purpose of that federal grant is to create a comprehensive literacy program to advance literacy skills for all students, especially those who have been historically underserved. In Massachusetts, that takes the form of GLEAM. GLEAM grants will support districts in creating deep and lasting improvements to literacy through the development and strengthening of a multi-tiered system of support, high-quality professional development and individualized support from an expert literacy consultant, selection and implementation of high-quality screening core and intervention materials, increase in high-quality preschool seats, all in support of improving and expanding evidence-based, equitable, inclusive, and culturally responsive practices. We'll start with talking about the GLEAM Pre-K through 12 program. The GLEAM Pre-K through 12 program is comprised of two cohorts, one that is already underway and one that we anticipate will begin in February. This second cohort asks that all districts select between one of two grade bands, Pre-K through 5 or 6 through 12. Districts may choose to focus on every grade within the selected grade band or select a subset of grades like K to 2 or 6 through 8, for example. It is important that districts know they have options in applying and that their choices should be rooted in whichever grade bands would lead to the greatest district-wide improvement for student outcomes. Lastly, pre-K through 12 applicants will need to select one of two tracks to focus on. We will be discussing the tracks in a lot more depth in just a moment. And for those districts who are interested in the preschool only GLEAM grant program, please sit tight. We will get to that later on in the session. Primarily, GLEAM supports districts in developing, bolstering, and sustaining a multi-tiered system of support. A multi-tiered system of support, which utilizes evidence-based and culturally responsive practices, high-quality core curricular materials, screeners, and assessments, tiered evidence-based intervention and instructional strategies, and aligned and high-quality professional learning experiences, is a proactive school and district-wide framework that supports all students. All GLEAM grant activities will support districts in strengthening and maintaining all aspects of an effective and robust multi-tiered system of support for literacy. If you would like more information on DESE's current MTSS model, please feel free to visit this page, this website that you see on the top of the slide, for more information. Let's get back to talking about those tracks I mentioned just a moment ago. So GLEAM will support strong multi-tiered systems of support through two tracks of activities. Track 1 for districts intending to focus on Tier 1 core instruction, and Track 2 for districts intending to focus more on Tiers 2 and 3 interventions. The tracks are intended to support districts' improvement goals, with one track dedicated to strengthening Tier 1 core instruction for all students, and the other track dedicated to supporting Tier 2 and 3 interventions for students who require additional instruction and support outside of the core literacy classroom to be successful. Track 1 is intended for applicants focused on the pre-K through 5 or 6 through 12 grade band without high-quality core curricular materials in place. Track 2 is intended for applicants focused on the pre-K through 5 or 6 through 12 grade band with high-quality core curricular materials in place. Please note that those intending to include pre-K in their pre-K through 5 grant should make a track selection based on the curricular materials in place in grades K through 5. Regardless of track selection, grantees including pre-K will participate in a self-evaluation of preschool materials through a separate curriculum rubric review process. As I said, to qualify for Track 1, districts must have and be utilizing, misspoke. To qualify for Track 2, districts must have and be utilizing high-quality core curricular materials for ELA and literacy. For the purposes of the GLEAM program, DESE defines high quality as those core comprehensive materials that are rated meets or partially meets expectations on Curate. If a Curate review is not available, core comprehensive materials must be rated green on Gateway 1 and Gateway 2 on Ed reports. Please note that preschool curricular materials are not rated on Curate or Ed reports. Thus, regardless of track, grantees that are including pre-K in their grant will participate in an evaluation of preschool curricular materials utilizing EEC's curriculum rubric review process, which we will discuss later on in this informational session. Links to Curate can be found on DESE's Center for Instructional Support website, the address of which you can see on this slide. Regardless of which track is selected, GLEAM program grant recipients will commit to funding 50% of the cost of instructional materials. Track 1 recipients will be responsible for funding 50% of the cost of procurement of high-quality ELA and literacy core curricular materials. Track 2 recipients will be responsible for funding 50% of the cost of procurement of intervention materials as identified by a comprehensive literacy needs assessment. Please also note that there are funding restrictions in place for very large districts. For more information on those funding restrictions, please visit the fund use document in the RFP. The GLEAM grant will cover the cost of assessment and/or professional development as needed. GLEAM Cohort 2 will span 2.5 years. In FY23, so from approximately late February to late August, both Track 1 districts and Track 2 districts will focus primarily on two central activities: a systems analysis and leadership coaching and development. The systems analysis, conducted in collaboration with the GLEAM literacy consultant, will establish a strong foundation for Year 2 equity-driven GLEAM work. The consultant will support the comprehensive analysis of systems, policies, and processes contributing to the current state of teaching and learning. Those grantees, including preschool in their grant, will receive funding for a systems analysis specific to early childhood education. These systems analyses will act as the foundation for GLEAM work in future years. Also in FY23, districts will receive leadership development for a district-level leader who will be responsible for overseeing the GLEAM grant across the district. Through this coaching, the district leaders will identify district personnel, teachers, principals, and literacy leaders who are committed to leading the GLEAM work through the entire GLEAM grant funding period. You can learn more about the systems analysis and leadership coaching on the RFP, the fund use document, and in Part 3 of the application. Although both Track 1 and Track 2 have similar FY23 activities, the tracks diverge more greatly in FY24. The first grant activity for Track 1 applicants in FY24 is for pre-K through 5 grantees that do not yet have a high-quality early literacy screening assessment in place. The selection, purchasing, and implementation of a screener for Track 1 applicants is an essential first step in identifying students' strengths and needs. For those districts including preschool, a preschool-specific literacy screening assessment will also be integrated into the district's broader screening process. The next FY24 planned activity for Track 1 applicants is the evaluating and selecting of materials. Districts will engage in a process of evaluating and selecting high-quality core curricular materials for ELA and literacy from September 2023 through May 2024. Additionally, grantees, including their preschool classrooms in their GLEAM grant, will go through a concurrent process of evaluating preschool curricular materials, utilizing EEC's curriculum rubric review process and with the support of EEC specialists. The third planned activity for FY24 Track 1 applicants is the purchasing of these materials. Districts will be expected to procure the selected materials in all schools and classrooms participating in the grant. These curricular materials, which will be the result of the evaluating and selecting process, should be purchased during FY24. As a reminder, the grant will cover 50% of the approved materials, with the districts covering the remaining 50%. In FY24, Track 2 districts will participate in many activities. Again, for those pre-K through 5 grantees that do not yet have a high-quality early literacy screening assessment in place, the grant will fund the evaluation, selection, and implementation of an early literacy screening assessment. The next FY24 planned activity for Track 2 applicants is the completion of a comprehensive literacy needs assessment. In conjunction with their expert GLEAM literacy consultant, district GLEAM leadership teams will evaluate the strengths and needs in the school's ELA and literacy multi-tiered system of support and identify materials, assessments, and/or professional development that is needed to improve ELA and literacy experiences and outcomes for all students. From there, the district GLEAM leadership team, again in conjunction with the GLEAM literacy consultant, will utilize the results of this needs assessment and develop a district-specific comprehensive MTSS action plan, which will be enacted in the 24-25 school year. In FY25, districts will focus on implementing new materials if they are a Track 1 applicant, or implementing their literacy action plan if they are a Track 2 applicant, and will receive funding for professional development and additional purchases as needed. Ongoing throughout the grant, districts will be able to participate in a monthly collaborative network of literacy leaders that is organized and facilitated by DESE. Additionally, all districts will receive ongoing individualized support from an expert literacy consultant throughout the course of the grant. Now that we've talked about the pre-K through 12 program activities, let's briefly discuss the GLEAM preschool only program. The GLEAM preschool program will support districts in creating deep and lasting improvements in early literacy through access to high-quality preschool experiences in districts and in EEC licensed community classrooms. On a holistic level, the GLEAM program grant will focus on evaluating and selecting high-quality preschool curriculum and intervention materials and an early literacy screening assessment, as well as providing PD and support for the skillful, inclusive, and culturally responsive use of assessment materials. For the GLEAM preschool grant, districts will be expected to develop, strengthen, and maintain strong partnerships with EEC licensed community partners. As such, though the district itself is the primary applicant, EEC licensed community partner programs are expected to participate fully and equally in the program. Specifically, the GLEAM program will provide support and guidance for districts to develop and strengthen a high-quality mixed delivery system for early education by identifying and strengthening partner relationships, examining the current state of early education throughout the community, and developing a plan for aligning district classrooms and community partner classrooms to ensure all students have access to high-quality early learning experiences. Before delving into the preschool program activities, let's clearly articulate what a mixed delivery system means. As defined by the Every Student Succeeds Act, a mixed delivery system is a system of early childhood care and education services that are delivered through a combination of programs, providers, and settings that is supported by a combination of public and private funds. Examples may include a community Head Start, family and center-based childcare programs, and district public schools. The GLEAM preschool program centers around 3 central components: curriculum and instruction, assessment and database decision-making, and professional learning and customized support over the course of 2.5 years. In FY23, the GLEAM grant will fund a comprehensive early childhood education systems analysis. This analysis, which will be collaboratively completed with an expert GLEAM consultant, will establish a strong foundation for future GLEAM work. The GLEAM literacy consultant will support the comprehensive analysis of systems, policies, and processes, contributing to the current state of early education teaching and learning within the community. Focusing specifically on early literacy and language, expanded access, and community partnerships. The GLEAM consultant will also provide the district leader customized leadership coaching throughout FY23 and beyond to support the development of a comprehensive GLEAM plan, the selection of a diverse GLEAM leadership team, and building leadership capacities to sustain early literacy improvements beyond the grant funding period. In FY24, again with the support of a GLEAM consultant, districts and community partners will embark on a collaborative, equitable, and inclusive process of evaluating existing curriculum materials and assessments based on EEC's curriculum rubric review process. Supported by EEC specialists, the community will determine what curriculum materials and assessments best meet the needs of their students. The grant will fund the purchase of these materials, and in FY24, the grant will fund ongoing professional development to implement these materials successfully and ensure all educators are supported in providing high-quality, evidence-based, and culturally responsive service to all students. Throughout the course of the grant, the GLEAM leadership team, which will be comprised of a diverse group of educators across the community, will, with the support of their consultant, move the work forward and ensure long-term growth and sustainability in improving early literacy learning experiences for all students. Now that we've examined the specific activities for the 2 different GLEAM programs, let's discuss how to apply for GLEAM and what to consider when completing the proposal. When developing your proposal, please keep the following in mind. A high-quality proposal will articulate a clear approach to building and sustaining multi-tiered systems of support for literacy. It will also demonstrate favorable conditions and the resources necessary to make and sustain meaningful literacy program improvements, and will bring together a diverse coalition of stakeholders committed to the grant activities. For more in-depth tips and considerations for completing each component of the GLEAM application, please view the GLEAM video series on the GLEAM website, which I will speak about in more depth in just a moment. Above all, please remember that a collaborative application process is essential. Rather than being a top-down initiative, GLEAM program grants will respond to district strengths, needs, challenges, and opportunities, and will reflect a unique and diverse local context. District leaders should seek out the voices and perspective of as many diverse stakeholders as possible, particularly those educators who work with or support historically underserved student groups. DESE seeks to see proposals are supported by stakeholders in various roles and experiences. Before submitting your proposal, you'll have to be sure to complete all components of the application. For those applying to the preschool only grant, you will complete all 5 of the required forms for Fund Code 508. For those applying to the pre-K through 5 grade band, you will complete all 5 of the required forms for Fund Code 509. For those applying to the 6 through 12 grade band, you will complete all 5 of the required forms for Fund Code 510. Those forms include a general signature page, budget details, the required program information, and both the schools and district assurance page. Please note that digital signatures are not accepted for Forms 1, 4, and 5. Instead, you must include an image of a wet signature. It is important that applicants use the correct forms and the correct fund code. All forms need to be submitted in the formats articulated in the RFP. As you are to develop your proposal, please keep the deadline in mind. The deadline for submission is Monday, December 12th by 5:00 p.m. Applicants must email all required forms in the correct format and subject title in a single email to gleam@mass.gov. Early submission is highly encouraged. Before moving on to our Q&A, I want to briefly review the technical support and resources available to applicants during the application period. Specifically, a Q&A document will be updated regularly and posted on the GLEAM website. On the GLEAM website, you will also find contact information for DESE and EEC specialists for any questions that you have that are not yet reflected in the Q&A document. Secondly, as I mentioned earlier, a comprehensive GLEAM video series can also be found on the GLEAM website. This video series breaks down each component of the required program information and provides very specific information about what applicants should consider in developing a high-quality proposal. Also on the GLEAM website, you will find a link to register for weekly office hours, which are held every Monday from 3 o'clock to 4 o'clock p.m. These office hours are an opportunity to receive technical assistance during the GLEAM proposal development process. Registration is required and can be found on the GLEAM website. As a reminder, this is a competitive grant, therefore, I may be limited in what sort of support and questions I can answer during these office hours. This is a screenshot of the GLEAM video series that you can find on the GLEAM website. It is hosted by me, so if you've enjoyed listening to my voice this afternoon and you want to hear more, please dive into the video series. I would now like to take questions from all of you. My colleague Linda has been monitoring the chat, so we will start with the questions that have already been posted. So please post questions in the chat as they arise, or feel free to come off mute and ask.
Hi everyone, my name is Linda. Our first question comes from Jan. I know that you are recording this, but could we also see the slides? Thank you.
Hi Jan, that's a great question. We are recording this and the recording will be posted on the GLEAM website. And I will also send a copy of the slides to participants and registrants after we end our time here together today.
Our next question comes from Kathy. She asked, our district uses Wonders 2017. It does not meet expectations K-2 and is partial in grades 3 to 5. Can we go for track 1?
Yes, you would be a great candidate for track 1 because track 1 is for districts that do not have high quality curricular materials in place, and Wonders 2017 does not meet that threshold. So by applying to track 1, you would go through a process of evaluating and selecting a new core curricular program to implement in the 24-25 school year.
Question from Stephanie. Can you go back to the slide that shows the timeline?
For which program, pre-K through 12 or preschool, Stephanie?
I'm sorry, I guess my question is around the 24-25 implementation or purchase. So our district is currently piloting at the 6 to 8 grade level span. And so our intent was to apply for funding for next school year, but it doesn't sound like that's possible.
So that is possible. And we do understand that districts are in different places when it comes to the evaluating and selecting process. So you would be able to apply for track 1 if you would like to receive grant funding to cover 50% of the purchase of your high quality materials, so long as they meet the definition of high quality when they are decided upon. By applying to track 1, you would receive, if awarded, funding to support that, and then you would receive funding to support implementation. However, it is important that you note that funding for materials purchase does not become available until October. We have to follow the federal fiscal year as this is a federal grant and the federal fiscal year does not start until October 1. So you would not be able to purchase the materials until after October 1 using GLEAM grant funding.
The next question comes from Sarah. We have existing HQIM in place for grades 3 to 6 and plan to implement new HQIM in the fall for K-2. Can we apply for track 2 for our K-4 schools to look at tiers 2 and 3?
Yes, absolutely. You'd be a great candidate for track 2. And by applying to track 2, that does not mean you can't focus at all on tier 1, as we know the tiers really can't be separated from each other. And so you would also receive tier 1 implementation support through this grant, as you're concurrently looking at how best to support tiers 2 and 3 instruction.
Question from Tom: can MAPS, MAAPS schools partner with a district?
So a district would have to be the primary applicant, and that district would have to meet the eligibility requirements. I'm assuming that you are asking if a district can apply as a consortium. And if so, there is a spot on the application to describe that consortium and who would be included. However, the primary applicant must be a district that is eligible.
Next question from Kathy: how does Apple Seeds fit in with other curriculum programs?
Great question. And I'm happy to have Linda here because she's our Apple Seeds expert. So Apple Seeds, for those who do not know, is an open resource, high quality foundational skills program. And it is a wonderful program, highly recommend it. However, it is just the foundational skills. It is not a core reading program. And so the decision with regard to which track you would apply for would not consider Apple Seeds to be a core curriculum. So you would make your track decision based on what is your core reading curriculum in those grade bands and whether or not that core curricular material in place is high quality.
The next question comes from Heather: how accurate does the budget request need to be without knowing which materials we will select as a result of curriculum review? It's difficult to estimate the total cost of materials.
Absolutely, Heather, I couldn't agree with you more. So the budget that you will find to complete for this grant, a lot of the work has already been done for you. Although it might seem daunting to submit a budget for a grant of this complexity, we have estimated and created a great deal of formulas that are already in place. So all you would have to enter is which track you're applying to and how many schools you're applying to, and the rest is done for you. So we have made estimates based on the current market for curricular materials, but they are just estimates. And so before you make a final decision, we will be able to amend your budget to have a more precise number. So the budget you're submitting this in just a few weeks is just an educated estimate that will be updated as you continue through the program.
That is it for questions in the chat.
Great, thank you so much, Linda. I'll give a space if anyone wants to come off mute or throw a question in the chat that hasn't been addressed. Well, if any questions do arise for you, please feel free to reach out to me at any time. I'm happy to answer any questions that I can, or feel free to pop into weekly office hours if you would like to chat in a more one-on-one situation. So before we close out, I did want to share my email again. You can email me at my direct email, which is allison.d.pickens@mass.gov, or at the GLEAM email, which is gleam@mass.gov. You can also email Kathy Lang, who is here today. Hi, Kathy. Kathy is from EEC, and she is our GLEAM preschool coordinator. And she is wonderful and knows everything there is to know about really high quality community-based early learning. So if you have questions about the GLEAM preschool program, you can email Kathy. Her email is here, or you can also email the gleam@mass.gov email, and we will get back to you. As always, I encourage you to visit the GLEAM website. There's a lot of great information and resources there, including the video series, a registration link to our office hours, and an updated Q&A. In the coming days or early next week, you will see this recording on the website to be able to go back to. Currently, there is a recording from our first info session, which was held a few weeks ago, that you are welcome to peruse. And I did want to thank you so much for taking the time to learn more about GLEAM and take the time out of your very busy afternoons to be with us today. I truly appreciate it. Please feel free to reach out to me at any time with any and all GLEAM related questions. And I am really excited to help support you in your literacy goals in the future.
Thank you, Allison.
Thank you so much, everyone.